Hello, glorious souls, and welcome to Soul Service Astrology update for the week of the 28th of November. And as we come into this week, really, it's an opportunity to embrace your vulnerability. And there is power in vulnerability. Now, it might feel uncomfortable. However, if you allow yourself to open and be vulnerable, there is usually an opportunity to settle more into your becoming and being and opening yourself up to real raw authenticity. And there's an alchemical moment there where we decide to drop masks and step into our vulnerability. So that's really the incoming week's catch cry, is vulnerability is really a superpower, and it's really something that we need to practice. It encourages us to be more vulnerable and authentic, but it also opens others up to being more vulnerable and authentic. And wouldn't it be awesome if we were living in a more authentic world? If we haven't met before, hello, I'm Kel. I'm a 13-sign sidereal astrologer. So the astrology that you will hear on this beautiful channel is matched with astronomy to a certain degree. And I think that's really important. We need to be looking at our sky. We need to be looking at our seasons. We can also be looking at the phases of the moon, and I definitely encourage that. And allowing an observation of how we feel to enable ourselves to become more authentic. But it's also in a beautiful divine union with the planet and the sky. If we're not looking at the sky, if we're not looking at the seasons, how do we hope to be able to adapt and survive at base level as we move into as we sit within existential crisis and climate crisis right now, it's here right now? How can we move beyond survival mode if we're not looking after ourselves? So that's why I think it's really important that we start to tell a different story in relation to astrology. It's not pseudoscience, it's a practice, and it can allow you to expand your consciousness, and it can allow you to explore and start to co-create the life that you desire to live in a very, very uncertain world. So this week, in summary, for the people that don't want to hang around for too long, I will go into detail. If you don't want to listen to the whole video, just listen to the next few minutes. This week, we really start to move. We get more Ophiuchus energy. Now, Ophiuchus is the 13th sign that you probably haven't heard much about. Now, it does sit on the ecliptic, and it sits on the ecliptic, and the ecliptic is where the planets revolve around the sun, and we absolutely revolve around the sun and move through Ophiuchus. It's not made up. It's always been there. It's just that it got deleted. And I refuse to delete it any longer, because Ophiuchus is our vulnerability. But if we can sit in the power of our vulnerability, we can alchemize a new story. We can alchemize ourselves, and we can co-create the life that we desire. Now, Ophiuchus got deleted because Ophiuchus holds powers, healing powers. And of course, Ophiuchus got deleted because it was the minority. It was the quirky sitting outside of culture and society. It was the women healers. It was the witches. They all got deleted. So it's completely up to you. You can continue to follow modern tropical astrology, which is the one that will not refer to Ophiuchus, and continue deleting that aspect of ourselves, or you can start to embrace it. And this week is an opportunity for you to come out of Scorpio, which we've only been in for just over a week, because it can be quite a ride in Scorpio, and sit in your vulnerability and allow yourself to be held. And perhaps that gives others permission to be vulnerable as well, and for you to hold them, and vice versa. And it starts to become this beautiful divine union. Now, also this week, there is kind of a polarizing energy. So there's this big oppositional energy with Mars in Taurus and Ophiuchus. So it is this polarization between being our very human, vulnerable, authentic selves, and this constant thought that we need to be making something tangible in this world, and doing. You can feel the energy as we move towards the back end of the year. Everyone's exhausted. Everyone needs a rest. This is an opportunity for you to open yourself to be, okay, I'm going to prioritize. There's only so many things I need to be doing right now, and I can still allow myself to be and being. And really, that's the catch cry of this week. So if that's all you watch for today, have a glorious day. Please don't forget to subscribe if you would like to come back here and listen to me every week. I do these every week. Otherwise, hang around, because now I'm going to go into the details. Of course, if I can get the screen that I would like to be showing you come up. There we go. There we go. That's the screen I would like you to see. I've made all these changes to Zoom, and you've got to constantly be reteaching yourself. So on Monday the 28th of November, Mercury moves into Ophiuchus. So let's unpack the opportunity there. Mercury is our mind, and it's just been through Scorpio. So it's likely that the mind maybe had to unshackle itself from programs that it has been tied to for a long time. Now, when we start to energetically move things out of our subconscious, which I feel like can be an ongoing process, we come out of that and we feel a little bit raw and vulnerable. I would just encourage you over the next week, because Ophiuchus doesn't last very long. It's only a week transit for most planets, except, of course, the outer planets that goes through there a bit longer because they move slower. So cut yourself some slack, give yourself a break, allow yourself to be raw and vulnerable, allow your mind to adapt to the new program that you're starting to integrate, that it's no longer attached to those old programs. It's no longer attached to stories in the past. And that's certainly something I've been working on. And then that's immediately followed up on Tuesday with Venus moving into Ophiuchus. Now, again, Venus is still not visible as a morning star or an evening star. She is still in conjunction with the sun. So in myth, in Anna, when Venus wasn't visible, she was in the underworld. She was negotiating with her sister and the Lord of the underworld, God of the underworld, as to how she could come back out. And there's a raw vulnerability to that when you've basically been dead and taken into the underworld. People aren't meant to leave the underworld, right? You're not meant to unshackle yourself from all your programs and your fears culture and society would have you believe in this particular modern era that we find ourselves in. So when we do start to unshackle ourselves, our body can feel it. You may be feeling more emotional. You may be feeling more raw. You may be needing your body to be more in natural environments to process the feelings that you need to process to be able, when we start moving into Sagittarius, the fun starts, the curiosity starts, the excitement, the potentiality starts. This is our annual opportunity to press Control-Alt-Delete or the reset button and allow ourselves to start to regenerate right before we get to, go into full opportunity and goal setting mode, which tends to happen for me after the solstice on the 21st of December. And also it's not a bad opportunity to have a bit of a rest before the holiday season, because of course sometimes we have to be around people that we don't necessarily enjoy their company. It's more of an obligation that you're around people. So supporting yourself, holding yourself in your vulnerability, allowing yourself to be the most powerful self that you can be prior to the holiday season, if you have to be around people that you wouldn't ordinarily want to be around, that can be really helpful and supportive for you. And I have noticed at my workplace, my day job as a scientist, there are actually quite a few people taking blocks of holidays right before holiday season. And they must just be feeling that they need it. So if you feel like you need a rest, then take it. And then, as you can see, what I mentioned at the beginning of this video was we have this oppositional energy between Taurus and Ophiuchus. And it's happening between both Mercury and Venus this week. So if I scroll to the next day, you'll see that it's happening between Mercury and Venus with Mars and Taurus. So let's unpack that a little bit. Let's look at what Mars energy is. Now, Mars is still retrograde, and Mars is going to be retrograde until... when does Mars go direct? I had it up here before, but now I've moved it. Mars doesn't go direct. Oh, there we are, 13th of January. So Mars is retrograde until the 13th of January. Now, what does that mean? Mars is our focus, it's our energy, it's our vitality, it's doing. Now, in Taurus, it wants to express in a really consistent, grounded, stable way. So our focus and our vitality is looking for consistency. It's looking for stability. It's looking for comfort. Now, in retrograde, there might be a realignment here. You might be having to cool yourself down. You might be having to accept that holy bananas, I won't swear, holy bananas, I might actually have gone slightly into burnout. I might have said yes to too many things. Maybe I do have too much stuff on my plate. So there's that energy over here. And then there's this vulnerable energy over in Ophiuchus, which is asking us to, you know, let's give away the past stories of the mind. The past is the past. It's over now. If we keep telling ourselves a story that elicits a certain feeling, our body doesn't know, our body and our mind doesn't know any different. It thinks that we're back in that experience. And so you keep reliving that feeling and that experience over and over again if your mind keeps telling you the story. So there's a certain vulnerability if you've decided to untether yourself from that. But of course, you still need to be functioning in this life. Now, if you have maybe got a few too many things on your plate, but you know there's a kind of priority to deal with your subconscious and what is going on for you and perhaps your mental health, then you might need to prioritize there and find a better balance. And that might mean saying no to people. That might mean saying no to things now so that in the future, something else can walk in the door, because usually when one door closes, another opens. And then at the beginning of this video, I said this is kind of a little, you're kind of on the seesaw between doing and being, because Ophiuchus really asks us to feel and to be, because to really feel what you're feeling when you're untethering yourself from stories of the past, you have to be. You can't just distract yourself with constant doing. And then, of course, on the other side of that is we still have things we need to do to survive in this life. So there's a balance between doing and being this week. And then as we move further into the week on the 2nd of December, and hello, December, everyone, in comes Neptune square Mercury. Again, more Ophiuchus. So Neptune is over here in Pisces. And Neptune really represents our mystical intelligence, not just our personal mystical intelligence, but the collective mystical intelligence. What is mystical intelligence? It is our mind, our analytical intelligence. It is our body. It's our senses, our feelings. And then we have our emotional intelligence, our nervous system intelligence. They really reside within our human form. Then our human form is within an environment, and the environment is an intelligence. We interact constantly with the environment. And if you don't believe me, stop breathing, stop eating, stop being full of water. Like, it's just impossible for us not to be connected to our environment. So there's an environmental intelligence there. And then surrounding all of that, it's got multiple names, is consciousness. a unified field of energy that moves throughout everything. And we have a connection to it all. So in Neptune, in Pisces, it's asking for you to recognize your consciousness and recognize all layers of your mystical intelligence. Now, you might describe yourself as mostly analytical. Well, I'm here to tell you there are other intelligences for you to use and tap into. Now, when we have Neptune in Pisces square Ophiuchus, and it's square Mercury and Venus this week, squares are fears. So really the fear is, will my vulnerability, if I stop telling myself these stories, if I stop tethering myself to these feelings from the past, what's going to happen? Am I going to fall apart? Because when our ego attaches to something that we've done a lot, we've got neural pathways connected to a particular pattern of thinking. When we start to untether ourselves from that, we start to feel fear. So when we have that square with Neptune, Neptune's asking you to use other intelligences to support you. And I would really encourage you to use your environmental intelligence. You can use the environment to support you and hold you. And that's why at the beginning I said, this week, if you are seeking to be held in your vulnerability, seek natural places to go and find that. And that's absorbing your environmental intelligence. I can guarantee you, if you go out and look at the horizon for at least 1 minute, you will feel better. There are studies on it. If you go and stand at a vast, awe-filled, picturesque view, you will feel better. You will start to feel that essence of something greater than you. So allow yourself to untether yourself from these stories. Allow yourself to untether yourself from past feelings that have no place anymore. And to do that and to support your ego in letting them go and not reverting back into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode, seek out natural places and allow your ecological, environmental intelligence to support you, because that's what it's there to do. The earth is but here to support and sustain us. So allow yourself to use it. And that is, let me just check my notes. Oh, and then the final thing for the week is Neptune goes direct right around the time that I've been describing this. So you may have been feeling there was kind of a going backwards a little bit in relation to perhaps layers of your intelligence, the ones that I just described, your mystical intelligence. And now, as we've had last week, Jupiter went direct. We now have Neptune going direct. So we can start to move forward with things, and especially after eclipse season, and we've had the new moon in Scorpio last week, allow yourself now to start to move things forward and embrace the changes that you want to be stepping into. So I've spoken today a lot about untethering ourselves from the stories of the past, which enables to untether ourselves from the feelings of the past, and we get to co-create now a new story. So the opportunity now is to start to feel into, and you have to feel it because the feeling programs the reality. What do you want to be in your life? And that's Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces. What feeling state do you want to be stepping into as you start to untether yourself from the ones that you don't? Because you can untether yourselves from the ones that you don't, but if you don't have anywhere to go, then you might get sucked back in. And that is where I'm going to leave this week's update. I hope you have enjoyed that. And if you would like to work with me a little bit more deeply, there's a couple of ways. The first way is I do birth chart evaluations, and you can go and read about them at my website, kellygunter.com, and that link is below. Or you can join me on a more regular basis, which I encourage, because this is where we apply the astrology. we apply our mystical intelligence as a practice. And that is in my membership community called Eco Alchemy. It's only $55 a month. You get 2 live calls with me a month. And into next year, into 2023, I will be updating Eco Alchemy and more things will be added. And if you lock in the price now, that is your price forevermore. The price will go up, but if you lock in the price now, you'll get more and you won't have to pay more. So it's always lovely. And you can find the information about that on my website too. The Soul Service Astrology Planner for 2023 is almost fully designed and we are talking to the printers. It starts in March 2023. So it doesn't start on the 1st of January. It is very much mapped to the seasons and the moons because that's our environment and that's how I feel us connected to those cycles. It's very much a tool that we'll be using in Eco Alchemy. It's a tool that you can use into your day-to-day life while getting all the mundane things done. You get to be connected to your ecological intelligence and your feeling state and all levels of your mystical intelligence so that you can create the life that you would really love to live. So the planner is still on pre-sale. And again, it's at my website, all the details, kellygunter.com. Have a glorious week and I will see you next week. Bye.